Imagine your CEO is right here on CNN or the BBC or some other major international network. Can your CEO really defend your company in a time of crisis? Or would he end up like Tony Hayward, the disgraced former CEO of BP? When there is a crisis and the world is looking at you, that's not the time to learn how to speak to the media. Hi, I'm TJ Walker with Media Training Worldwide in New York, and I want to welcome all my friends there in Malaysia. It's Friday, it's good to be with you, and I look forward to meeting many of you in person December 7th when I'll be there. But what do you do in the meantime if your CEO is not prepared for a media crisis? So let's face it, a lot of us have CEOs, people are differential. They're used to telling the boss, hey, you're a good public speaker. Well, let me tell you, you can be a great public speaker and be awful when it comes to the media, especially in times of a crisis. Because Tony Hayward was a good public speaker. He comes across well, but when there's a crisis, it only takes one slip of the tongue, one offhand remark, and boom, you have destroyed your reputation forever. Who can forget, I want my life back? That was one of the sound bites that destroyed Tony Hayward's reputation and career at BP. Or, hey, it's America. Of course there will be frivolous lawsuits. Now, some of you are thinking, hey, why pick on Tony? He's a good guy. He was quoted out of context. So let me tell you, every quote is out of context. How else could the media possibly quote you? Every quote is out of context. It's out of the context of an entire conversation, an entire interview. Now, what I do when I work one-on-one with Fortune 500 CEOs, presidents of countries, prime ministers, Nobel Peace Prize winners, and when I work with groups is I teach people how to speak to the media so it doesn't matter what crisis is going on. You can know how to control your message, to control your image, and how to control the quotes. The most important thing of all is how to speak in sound bites so that you know in advance exactly what quote will be used. Here's the big problem most CEOs have. First of all, they're pulled in a million directions. There's never enough time. Oh, I'd like to rehearse. There's no time. Well, you better make time for a crisis. So what happens is they are briefed as they're walking on their way to the interview or to the press conference, and they're thinking purely in terms of information, facts, numbers. Let me tell you, all the numbers in the world, all the facts, all the answers will do you no good in times of a crisis because it's not enough to connect intellectually. You have to connect emotionally. And you have to have the ability to control your quotes. What I found in working with executives throughout Asia, throughout Africa, Europe, North America, South America, and even Australia, is that every quote you see during a time of crisis comes from one of 10 speech patterns. It's either an analogy, it's a bold action word, it's a cliche, it's humor, especially emotion. And I teach all of my clients these 10 elements in every media training I do, whether it is a large public workshop for 1,000 or one-on-one training. This is what you learn in our Crisis Communications Workshop. I'm really looking forward to meeting a lot of you and going over this. But this is a learned skill. Surviving a media crisis has nothing to do with whether the media like you, whether you're comfortable, whether they are favorable towards your industry. It has to do with how you control what comes out of your mouth. This is a teachable skill. Anyone can learn how to do it. And I'll tell you, one of the best ways you can help your CEO is by actually rehearsing. You don't have to go get a big TV studio, big gigantic camera. It can be as simple as just grabbing the first thing you find. Here's the first thing I found, my iPhone. Most iPhones allow you to capture video. So you can be in the back seat of a car on your way to a TV interview, on your way to a press conference, and rehearse capturing video of your CEO. Then play it back and watch it, and you can figure out what works, what doesn't work. Even doing this for 2 minutes will dramatically boost the confidence and the skill of your CEO before that interview, before that press conference. Because what most people do is is they just talk about the substance. They just talk about, well, if we ask this, we'll answer that. And if the reporter asks this, we'll then say that. Complete, utter waste of time, in my view, when it comes to controlling your message. If there's a major disaster with your company, a chemical spill, injuries, possible death, oil spill, the whole world is looking at you. And if you flub this moment, you could have 20 years of good reputation gone, like that, overnight. You have to be ready. You have to be able to get your public message out. You have to be able to tell people proactively, here is what you're doing to solve the problem. Here's what you're doing to make sure it will never happen again. Here's what you're doing to comfort the employees, family members, anyone in need. You cannot be on the defensive. You cannot react. You have to have a positive agenda. Now, none of these skills are intellectually that difficult, but they're not common sense. It requires a new way of speaking, and it requires practice. And the best way to do that is just like now. I'm on camera. You've got to practice. You've got to watch yourself. You've got to do it again and again and again. And you cannot let your CEOs use the excuse of, oh, there's no time, or I know this. It's not about knowing it. It's about doing a first draft, a second draft, and a third draft. None of you would ever send out a memo to every employee, every investor, and the media just by dictating it once. You wouldn't do that. You would want to spell check it, review it, refine it, let other people look at it, go through a first draft, a second draft, maybe a third. Why do you do that? Because you want to get it better and better before you hit that send button, sending into the world. Well, when it comes to speaking and speaking during a crisis, you need to have various drafts too. And the draft cannot be on paper. It cannot be text on a screen. It has to be words coming out of your CEO's mouth. And it has to be where your CEO doesn't just deliver a message, but answers questions. Because you can have a great message, you can stick to that message, but if at the end of an answer, 12 minutes into a press conference, you say something like, at least we didn't kill 100, or glad it wasn't me, any little slip up like that can and will be quoted and could destroy your reputation. Don't let it happen. Most emergency preparedness executives spend 99% of their time on logistics, equipment, sending out signals the right way to rally the troops. They spend less than 1% of their time on actually preparing messages and communicating and rehearsing. And yet, once you get into a crisis, 99% of your time is spent communicating to the world about the crisis. Don't wait until a crisis happens. You can prepare. You can prepare now. We can't control what crises will come up, but we can control how we communicate that to the rest of the world. If you don't, you could see an absolute devastation to your stock price, to your reputation, to your brand. I'd like to thank Richard and Maverick for being able to speak to you today. I would love to meet each and every one of you, and I look forward to coming to Malaysia. I will be in Kuala Lumpur on December 7th, and look forward to meeting so many of you. I will be at the KLCC Plenary Hall in Kuala Lumpur, and if you have questions about that, speak to Richard or Maverick right there. You can also go to tjwalkerasia.com. That's 3Ws.tjwalkerasia.com. Again, hope you have a great conference today, Friday, in Malaysia. I'm TJ Walker coming to you from America, and I look forward to seeing all of you in a few weeks in Kuala Lumpur. Thanks a lot. Enjoy the rest of your day.